Quite a challenge presented to you then in America's Cup, covering a race at such high speeds, 100 kilometers an hour, over a course that's about 3 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, in an event that lasts hours all in all. So talk to me a little bit about those challenges and how you overcome them in a day of broadcast for America's Cup.
So you're right, it is challenging. The first things first, there are obviously no wires in the coverage. So we are planning to do everything in 4K and HDR this year. To do that requires an enormous amount of radio engineering and quite sophisticated production to bring back all of those signals to shore. So the fact the Cup is wireless makes things hard. The speed is obviously incredible. The boats you mentioned can do 100 kilometers an hour in the right wind conditions. So it's important that you can convey that to viewers and give people an idea of what it's like to be on those boats. It's important that you can hear the sailors. So just imagine the challenges of making the microphones work at 100 kilometers an hour. If you ever put your head out of the window of the car as you're driving along the motorway and think about how much wind is buffeting you, well, that's the wind that's going across the surface of the boats at all the time. So to be able to hear the team audio and give people an idea of what it's like to be on one of these yachts is an enormous challenge. And then our third responsibility is obviously making sure that we know where all the boats are and measure their position to millimetre accuracy, because we also, in addition to doing the TV coverage, have to do the umpiring and enable the regatta to be administered so that we know who's won. So that in itself is a big challenge too.
I'll ask you in a moment about the umpiring. I wanted to ask about the experience then for the fans watching at home or wherever they are. How can they watch? What will be the experience for those fans, and how do you try and really immerse them in the action?
So we try, first and foremost, we try and tell all of the stories of the America's Cup throughout the America's Cup. So even now on social media, we're putting up videos every single day, allowing you to see what every team has been doing every single day, all the things they've been testing out, all the ways that they're experimenting to see if they've got the fastest boat, because the fastest boat is the boat that wins the America's Cup. So we tell all the stories of the coverage until the racing begins, and then when the racing begins, we'll be on air 2 or 3 hours every day, depending on the number of races that there are on that given day. And the coverage will be open and accessible to all, so it'll be very widely available. Here in Spain, we've announced deals with TVE and with TV3, Catalonia, and we will have another Spanish broadcaster too, name I can't disclose, but another Spanish broadcaster coming as well. And so everything will be live and available in whichever in Spanish and in Catalan for local viewers. You'll also be able to watch on our YouTube channel and on the America's Cup website. And then that pattern repeats itself around the world. So in France, for example, we're working with Canal Plus as the local broadcaster, but you can also watch on the America's Cup website or on our YouTube channel as well.
So plenty of way to watch. Here in Catalonia, of course, you have the amazing backdrop of Barcelona City. How are you going about making sure that features in the America's Cup coverage? Because that's going to be quite a key part of it all this time around.
I think that's right. Barcelona is a key character in the story, and Barcelona's got an amazing maritime history. Think of all the links to the sailing world that there are from here. So Barcelona will be the star of the show in many ways. I mean, one simple benefit is that, of course, we'll be pointing cameras from out at sea back to shore. So the skyline of Barcelona will always be there. Everyone always remembers from the Olympics in Barcelona the famous shot with the diver with the city centre behind it. You know, we have to try and recreate some of those stunning images with the America's Cup. I think we've certainly got the opportunities to do that. And the other thing is that the racing will be really close to shore. So the race course will be somewhere between the W and the Arts Hotel every day, and only 150, 200 metres offshore. So if you're sitting on the beach or walking along the beachfront, you'll be able to see the racing going along. And the event is open and accessible to all, so it's not ticketed. You'll have ample opportunities to get involved and experience the America's Cup racing up close, but without actually getting your feet wet.
Okay, that's pretty cool then, being able to watch it, sit on the beach, and we've got some beautiful beaches here in Barcelona to sit and watch the racing. I wanted to ask you then a little bit about the VAR, the umpires room. Controversial subject perhaps in football. What will America's Cup be bringing to the viewer experience in terms of VAR? How much access will they get? Will we hear conversations from the umpires room? And how important is it in the terms of the racing?
Well, it's fundamental to the racing. So we build the systems that allow the relay all of the information back to the umpires. The umpires have access to all the cameras, but in addition to that, they have data visualizations that they rely upon to make umpiring decisions about whether one boat was too close to another, whether one boat should have given away to another, whether one boat has followed the rules of sailing or not. And they do that extremely quickly, which I think is one of the things that's a lesson for success from other sports, is to do that in close to real time as possible. And then you hear the umpires on the TV coverage giving their decision and explaining why it was that they made the particular choice. So it's very, very clear and transparent how it works.
And then you personally, Stephen Nuttall, how do you live these races? Because there's a lot of state-of-the-art technology, from the boats themselves to the cameras to the, and also a lot of variables, right? A lot of things literally in the air. So how do you experience the races? And is there anything that you fear most when it comes to these America's Cup races?
It's a roller coaster ride every day. And look, we have an amazing team of people who produce the coverage. So there's no more than 100 people in the crew producing the coverage every day. There's some incredibly experienced producers who've worked in sailing and in other sports for many, many years. So our live producer, I think this is his 5th America's Cup. He's been doing the America's Cup sort of man and boy. And so I'm incredibly fortunate. We have a team that knows way more about sailing than I do. And I just try and make sure that we just keep the boat pointing in roughly the right direction and then trust them to get on with their jobs.